Nick here from Fear and Beer. We are going to be diving into another HHN homework session, this time covering Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees, Jason Universe, whatever we call it nowadays. We're going to be diving into the franchise and the history that is Friday the 13th to us. Now, this is a large franchise. There is 12 movies, over 150 kills, video games, a TV show, another video game, appearances in Mortal Kombat, action figures, books, comics. He went to New York. He lived in space. He lived with Leatherface in a comic book run. He appeared on Arsenio Hall.
How are you? That's good.
And so much more. So how are we going to condense all this? In this video, we're going to dive into this franchise as a whole. We're going to talk about every single movie very quickly. We're going to talk about the lawsuit a little bit. We're going to talk about some of Jason's best kills. We're going to talk about 3 of my favorite Jason actors. I'm going to try to compare this to past HHN houses, so let's dive in. Now, I think before we get into the franchise and the movies and the best kills, let's get into the history of how this movie actually started. So what kickstarted Friday the 13th? Where did this come from? Well, it's as easy as this. There's a direct quote from Sean S. Cunningham that says, "Halloween is making a lot of money, let's rip it off." And that's how it started. Halloween came out in 1978 and First Friday came out in 1980, and they saw that, well, a slasher on a small budget might just be able to make the big bucks. Sean S. Cunningham got his start on Broadway. He was working as stage management, and he went on to make a documentary called The Act of Marriage, and it actually ran on Broadway for around 25 to 27 weeks. After getting together with Wes Craven, they kind of worked together on a little film called The Last House on the Left. Now, this was produced by Sean, but it was written and directed by Wes. After that, Sean wanted to start this franchise. Like we mentioned, let's rip off Halloween. So to get Friday the 13th off the ground and running, he took out an ad in Variety with the classic glass-breaking logo, and it had a tagline that said, "The most terrifying film ever made." Now you would think they had a story, right? No. The movie wasn't made, nor was it written, but this was a tactic to get funding for the film. When people started to reach out to them, they knew this film could get made. Now that the film was sort of off the ground and running and interest was piqued, he reached out to Tom Savini after seeing Dawn of the Dead, but he wanted it to be a little bit more realistic looking. As the script was getting kicked around, Janine Taylor actually read it, and she's like, well, there's sex, there's axe, there's blood. It's not really her cup of tea, but it's a job, and not many people are going to see this. Well, she was wrong. Friday the 13th went on to be one of the most successful horror movies of all time. Janine Taylor wasn't the only one to read the script and think, I'm not sure. Betsy Palmer actually read this script and said, quote, "What a piece of shit." But she needed some money for a brand new car, so she took the role on as Jason's mother. If you notice an appearance change, yep, I swapped my Jason shirt out. That is because when I first recorded this video, the audio stopped working about 5 minutes in and I didn't notice. So when I went to edit, blank. So, take 2, here we go. One final tidbit about Friday the 13th, the original. Bing Crosby's son was actually in that. That's actually Harry Crosby. He was the one that was actually killed by all of the little arrows and was left for dead there. Before we dive into the movies a little bit, let's go through the release order of all the films in this franchise. Starting with Friday the 13th. That was released May 9th, 1980. After that, we had Friday the 13th, Part 2. That came out May 1st, 1981. Friday the 13th Part 3 followed that, coming out on August 13th, 1982. Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. Yes, they called the 4th movie in this franchise Final. And spoiler alert, it won't be the final time you hear the word final. But that released April 13th, 1984. We had Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. That came out March 22nd, 1985. Friday the 13th, Part 6, we had Jason Lives. That came out August 1st, 1986. Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, came out May 13th, 1988. Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Yep, well, it says it in the title. He went to New York. This released on July 28th, 1989. Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. I told you, final. Again. This was released on August 13th, 1993. Jason X, Jason Goes to Space, we'll talk about it. That was released July 24th, 2001. Freddy vs. Jason came out August 15th, 2003, and then the remake, Friday the 13th, which came out February 13th, 2009. A fun thing to note, out of all 12 of the movies in this franchise, only 4 of them were released on an actual Friday the 13th. So let's get into the movies. Friday the 13th, 1980. This is the one that started it all. This was set at Camp Crystal Lake. We didn't know about Jason, we didn't know about all the stuff that was going to happen, but this is where it all began. Set at Camp Crystal Lake, a group of counselors preparing to reopen the camp are picked off one by a mysterious killer. In a twist ending, the murderer is revealed to be Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mother. Jason years earlier had drowned due to the counselors' neglection of him. They were all partying and smoking and drinking and doing this and that, and poor little Jason was left to drown. This one ends with our final girl Alice decapitating Jason's mom, Betsy Palmer, and leaving us with a pretty conclusive ending. Or was it? At the very end, there is a little stinger scene where Alice is in a boat floating on Camp Crystal Lake, and boy version of Jason pops out of the water, all deformed, and attacks her, and that's where we leave it off. While the original is a classic, there were long periods of just nothing going on. There was just no urgency. It ended up being a classic, but honestly, without Savini or Betsy Palmer on set, it was really just people fucking around. Biggest and best personality was Crazy Ralph, and he was just a side character. All in all, it's still a classic. Friday the 13th, Part 2, 1981. In this one, Jason returns as the killer, who is now a grown man living in the woods. We don't get answers to this. We don't know how he grew from child to full-on grown adult Jason, but we just go with it. This time, he's wearing a potato sack. Not something you think of really when you think of Jason immediately, but yes, he did not don the hockey mask just yet. In this one, it's a typical Friday movie. He's seeking his revenge on a new batch of counselors, but this movie solidifies him as the franchise's main villain. In this one, the final girl, Ginny, survives by impersonating Jason's mom. She found the shack where Jason was living, and he had this zombified or, decaying head of his mother. She put on her sweater, and she did the whole, Jason, I'm your mother, that whole shtick, which at the time was new, but we've seen it repurposed many times. Friday the 13th, Part 3, 1982. This one is set immediately after Part 2, and again, more camp counselors just doing their thing, but this is actually a nearby cabin. We get these random characters. The cast is just bizarre. There's bikers, there's these almost Harold and Kumar Cheech and Chong style characters. It's just all over the place. In this one, we see Jason finally don the hockey mask that we all know and love. This is now his trademark moving forward, and we really don't waver from the hockey mask at this point. Now, this film was shot in 3D, and it features a whole bunch of 3D gimmicks. You can't pass up an opportunity like that when you got it. This one ends with Jason taking an axe to the head and seemingly dying. Again, this is a common thread. We're going to get through it. Friday the 13th, the final chapter, 1984. Yep, final. Bear with me. Tom Savini returned to the franchise at this point to give us a masterclass of gore. In this one, there's a lot of good characters, and, well, there's Crispin Glover dancing. That's always fun. This time, however, we do stray from the final girl. We are introduced to Tommy Jarvis, a young child who is obsessed with Halloween masks. Pretty fitting to go against a masked villain. These movies don't have a crazy amount of substance, so we're just going to skim through a lot of them.
Come here, I want to show you something.
It's Jason killing a bunch of people, but it does end with this little battle of him and Tommy. Tommy kills Jason with a machete after this long, drawn-out, brutal fight. Again, Jason being sort of tricked. Tommy shaves his head, gets all mummified, and he kind of sort of resembles young Jason. That gives them an opportunity to strike, and strike they do.
Jason, don't you remember?
This one ends with Tommy going absolutely insane and attacking Jason with his own machete, thus ending the franchise. The Jason death at the end was just phenomenal. And it was supposed to be the end of the franchise. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, 1985. Tommy, now a troubled teen, is sent to this halfway house. This is where murders start to pick up. The characters are, let's just say, terrible.
You don't set a place for a dead person.
I said I was sorry.
Never really chopped wood before, but certainly looks like fun.
Leave me alone!
They are just not great in this movie, but that's part of the magic.
But I think you're really out of line.
This movie has a little asterisk on it because it is in fact not really Jason in this movie. At the halfway house, this is where we start to see the murders pop up. It is later revealed that Roy, paramedic, was using Jason's legend to cover up his murder spree. Pretty much just donning the hockey mask, doing as he will, and having people kind of put the blame on Jason. Jason does appear in hallucinations with Tommy. We do sort of get this little PTSD storyline through Tommy and him always having these little mini freakouts and seeing Jason in hallucinations. But again, this wasn't Jason in the film. And this one ends in typical fashion. Jason, or Roy, being killed. Done away with. This one was sort of a swing and a miss of the franchise for me. Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, 1986. We kickstart this movie with Tommy trying to cremate Jason's body, but instead accidentally resurrecting him, sort of in a Frankenstein-esque way. Lightning strikes and Jason is brought back, now officially undead. Again, Jason picks up the hockey mask, heads to Camp Crystal Lake, which has now been renamed Camp Forest Green. Now the tone of this one is very more self-aware. It's very campy. We know we're at the 6th iteration of this franchise and Jason has now died and come back to life multiple times. They finally accept it and they finally run with it.
I could swear I heard something.
And we also get Doctor Strange Jason. Yeah, we get Yellow Gloves Jason. He also has a little work belt, so it's nice to see he's been going to Home Depot to pick up supplies. Again, it's Jason killing his way through this franchise, but it ends with Tommy luring Jason back to Camp Crystal Lake, chaining him up and drowning him at the bottom of the lake. Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, 1987. Now at the 7th iteration, we start to get a little weird with it. Not that we haven't already been a little weird with it before, with the whole Roy stuff and the 3D, whatever. But this is where we start to really dive into some weird stuff. In this one, Jason faces Tina, who is a teen with telekinetic powers. Think of Tina as sort of like an 11 from Stranger Things. This one, Jason is accidentally resurrected again while Tina is trying to connect with her dead father. Typical Friday fashion, it's a slasher, it's Jason, but it wraps up with Tina using her powers to trap Jason in the lake once again. Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, 1989. They should have called this one Jason on a Boat. This was the final Paramount version of Friday the 13th. In this one, a graduating class boards a cruise ship to New York City, but Jason is a stowaway? Yep, we just go with it. Jason kills most of them while on the boat, but they do finally make land. Once they do, they go into New York, and it's sort of an underwhelming version of New York. Most of this movie is on the boat. It's in the name Jason Takes Manhattan, but he really just quickly visits Manhattan. All we really see is some back alleys, some sewers, a rooftop fight, which we'll talk about shortly. This one, we do find a new way to kill Jason, and he is sort of melted away with toxic waste. You can only cut him up and beat him with a machete so many times and drown him in the lake. This one, you gotta get a little bit more creative. Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, 1993. The second final in the franchise, which neither are finals, but you know, that's besides the point. This one starts out a little bit differently. This one starts with Jason being killed. That's right, the FBI is involved and they lure Jason out and they blow him up. This one, again, we're finding new ways to keep Jason alive, or we're trying to find new ways, but they blew him up, but his heart is still beating. His evil heart can now possess others, and he can take over their bodies. In this one, he hops from person to person, trying to be reborn through a Voorhees family member. It ends with him being dragged to hell by Freddy Krueger's glove, teasing that future crossover. Now, at this point, New Line had been taking over the production of these movies, and it was a cool little ending. Unfortunately, we didn't really get the payoff until about 10 years later, and well, it's one of my favorites. We'll get to it. Jason X, 2002. In this one, Jason is cryogenically frozen, and he wakes up in the 25th century on a spaceship. I can't believe these are the words I'm saying, but this is where the franchise went.
Guys, it's okay. He just wanted his machete back.
On board, he resumes his killing until he's upgraded by nanobots into what has now been called Uber Jason. He's a metal-plated, supercharged version.
Wow.
This is absolutely insane. There's a lot of fun kills. It's very sci-fi heavy. He battles a cyborg or a bot of some sort, whatever you want to call her. But this film screams early 2000s. It's a fun watch. This is a very stupid, fun movie. And Jason brings a new meaning to Ice Ice Baby. Freddy vs. Jason, 2003. It really is only half of a Friday the 13th movie, but that's okay with me. This one starts off by Freddy kind of giving us the monologue. He can be killed, but as long as he's not forgotten about, Freddy can come back. Well, the people of Springwood have found a way to forget about him,
We're not safe awake or asleep.
thus making his powers essentially useless. What he does, though, is he resurrects Jason and he tells them to go kill the children of Springwood, creating a stir and a frenzy that Freddy's back, even though it's Jason doing the killing. Jason doesn't really take orders, though. He keeps killing, and this causes this friction between Freddy and Jason. In this one, Jason is sort of the good guy, and Freddy is the clear bad guy. This does lead to a couple cool showdowns. We do get Jason in Freddy's nightmare world, and we also do find a way to pull Freddy into the real world, which ends in a giant climactic slasher battle with blood, guts, everything. It's a really fun movie just because you get to shut your brain off. We get to see Springwood, we see Camp Crystal Lake, we see Freddy's world, we see Jason's world, and we see all the teens that are caught in the middle. This does end at Camp Crystal Lake, where Freddy, like I said, is brought into the real world and has to battle Jason. After hacking and slashing and blowing up a propane tank,
Freddy! Go to hell!
Jason cuts Freddy's arm off, Jason shoves Freddy's glove through his chest, they pull him into the lake, and it ends with Jason emerging finally holding Freddy's decapitated head. But it ends with a cheeky little Freddy wink, something that I just don't think we're ever going to see paid off. I really would like to see it paid off, but it is what it is. It's almost a miracle that we got this film to begin with. Friday the 13th, the 2009 reboot. And you can tell Michael Bay had his hands on this film with all the goddamn blue lights flashing around for no reason. I was waiting for Shia LaBeouf to pop out with Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. This is more of a modern retelling. It kind of combines parts 1 through 3 and smashes it all into one film. The part that feels a little bit different is it's sort of a summer house and these teens are partying there. It's not summer camp, so it's a little off in that aspect. To start this movie, we see Jason witnessing the murder of his mother, Pamela Voorhees. We do kind of fast forward to present day where we're caught up in a storyline again. Teens at a summer house having fun, smoking, drinking, doing all the stuff Jason hates. In this one, they did decide to make Jason a lot more tactical. He's very menacing and he does think out a lot of his kills. In here, he's using traps, underground tunnels, and even archery, which when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know about that, but then I remembered he was using harpoons in previous movies, so you really can't say Jason wouldn't do that. Jason has done just about everything at this point. It is a typical Friday the 13th movie. It's hacking, it's slashing, but he is this tactical, fast, brutal version of Jason. And this ends with Jason getting absolutely obliterated in some farming machine. I don't know the name of it, but it was a pretty gruesome death. Let's get into my top 3 Jason actors. Now, this is just my personal top 3. You might have a different one, so let me know in the comments who your favorite Jason actor is. Now, coming in at number 3, which everyone might not agree with, but I have Derek Mears from the 2009 remake. In this one, I like that Jason is given more awareness and motivation. He's not just that silent, sulking, mindless killer. He's played almost as a survivalist, and he's more agile, and he's more of that hunter version of Jason, which at first I wasn't in love with, but then as the years went by, I started to really appreciate this movie a little bit more. I view him in this one as more evolved, and it's more of a formidable force. I think he's just scarier in this one. Derek Mears has this very big presence, and I think Derek Mears' portrayal in this movie, it's more intimidating. It's more thought out, and I think that plays a big role in why this movie is kind of growing on me over time. Number 2, Richard Brooker from Friday the 13th Part 3. In my eyes, he sort of sets the standard of what Jason is. You know, in the first one, it wasn't really Jason. In 2, he was just this baghead character. In 3, this is where we get the hockey mask Jason. He has to sort of create what Jason is to us. Brooker is one of the bulkier, more physically intimidating Jasons, so that always plays a big role in it for me when I'm looking through the Jason actors. This one, he moves with just physical grace, but he just is a force to be reckoned with. It also helps that Brooker was a former trapeze artist, so that, I think, plays a role in his sort of agility aspect and his balance of character. Coming in at number 1 should probably not surprise many of you. That is Kane Hodder. He's the one that has portrayed Jason the most. Unfortunately, he didn't get the best roles to play with. He did play him in Part 7, The New Blood, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell, and Jason X. But when you think of Jason, you're probably thinking of Kane. Kane introduced a whole new style of Jason. He's the one that really implemented that deep, heavy breathing, the head tilts. He did the strict posture, and it just made that Jason so memorable. While some of the other actors portrayed Jason as meandering, Hodder kind of took on a role and made it almost like he had a purpose. He was driven to kill. Kane is the one that I think turns Jason into this sort of rageful monster that everyone thinks of today. Let's get into my top 5 kills of Jason Voorhees throughout this whole Friday the 13th franchise. Coming in at number 5 would be Jason's boxing match. Yes, you heard that right. His boxing match from Jason Takes Manhattan. In this one, he's in a rooftop boxing Julius. After wearing himself out by just punching and punching Jason, Jason takes that KO punch. His head flew way off his body, rolled down the roof and into a trash can. What made me put this on my list is just how ridiculous and entertaining it was to watch. The fact that this far in the franchise we're having characters just straight up punch Jason, it was comical enough. But for Jason to actually punch back and knock his head clean off was just so ridiculous it had to make the list. Number 4, the frozen face smash from Jason X. In this one, Jason actually uses a little bit of science to kill somebody. He takes the scientist's head and submerges them right into this little vat of liquid nitrogen. They freeze almost instantly, and Jason pulls the head out and shatters it into pieces. Instantly turns into this red ice blood smash on the floor, which is just amazing. The creativity behind this kill is what kind of put it on the top 5 list for me. It stood out amongst all his other ones because obviously there's a lot of hacking and slashing, and we'll get to those ones, and they're really fun too. But this one was just so different that it stood out. There was nothing like it before this. Number 3, I have the folding in half that came in Freddy vs. Jason. In this one, Jason goes into a house after a couple finishes extracurricular activities, we'll call it. Our female character is in the shower and our male is on the bed drinking beer. That's when he notices Jason standing there bedside. Jason takes his machete and just stabs and stabs and stabs, and you can see the gore and the goo and all this stuff coming out from underneath the bed. He then takes both sides of the bed and folds it straight up like a little hard shell taco, leaving our character just mushed in the middle. It just goes to show his brute strength. It was just such a vicious kill. Not only did he stab and stab and stab and just all of his innards coming out, he then decided to take it one step forward and not just leave him, dead and laying straight. No, he's going to destroy this guy's back and put his legs behind his head. Number 2 would be the machete through the crotch kill from Friday the 13th Part 3. In this one, for whatever reason, our character is doing a handstand and he's walking down the halls where he bumps into Jason in probably the worst position you possibly could be, crotch first. As when Jason takes his machete and slices him right in between the legs and the character falls down. This one was back in the day, so the gore and the blood wasn't really crazy. The cut effect made it look a little weird. It seemingly was like his body was still attached, but it was a fun kill, and that's where we also got to play with the 3D aspect a little bit. Coming in at number 1 is probably his most famous kill, and that would be the sleeping bag kill from Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. In this one, wouldn't you know it, a camper was in a tent, in their sleeping bag, and Jason strikes. He finds her in the tent, he takes her in her sleeping bag, drags her out, and bashes her against a tree. This has everything from Friday the 13th aesthetic in there. We have Jason, we have the campfire, we have campground, we have the sleeping bag, we have the woods. It's just the perfect crescendo of Jason. A couple honorable mentions that didn't make the list but are pretty close and you could probably convince me to be on there. One would be the redone version of the sleeping bag kill from 2009. In this one, Jason not only does the sleeping bag kill, but he has the character stuck in the bag hanging from a tree, and he lights a fire underneath the sleeping bag, burning them alive. Just to add a little bit more fuel to the fire, not only is this character burning alive, but she's doing so in front of her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was actually caught in a bear trap, and he's stuck there watching her burn and scream. It's just brutal. And my other honorable mention comes from Freddy vs. Jason. This is where whenever Destiny's Child was in this film, she got whacked by Jason. He slashes her right in the chest, and she goes flying. She smashes against the tree and falls down. I mean, this was one of the most powerful shots of Jason in this franchise as a whole, I think, and just shows the strength that he embodies. Now let's get into the rights issues, because this is a big story in the Friday the 13th universe. There's a big reason why there's a gap of movies and video games, and let's get into it a little bit. So what was this lawsuit about? At its core, this legal battle was over who owns Friday the 13th. We had Victor Miller, who was the screenwriter of the original Friday the 13th in 1980, going up against Sean S. Cunningham, who was the original director of this film and sort of the overseer of the franchise. Now, in 2016, Victor Miller claimed that under U.S. copyright law, creators can reclaim the rights to their work after 35 years. Miller filed to terminate his original grant of rights and regain ownership of the screenplay he wrote in 1979. What he wanted ownership of the original script and elements from the first film only, because that's what he wrote. So we're talking Pamela Voorhees, Camp Crystal Lake, and young kid Jason. Cunningham argued this on two fronts, one being work made for hire. They stated that Miller wrote the script as a work made for hire, which means it was done on behalf of Horror Inc. and Sean S. Cunningham himself. Miller had no right to claim that copyright since he was brought on board to work for them. Now, if they were to prove this true, that would mean there was no termination possible. He could not regain the rights to that screenplay. The other part of Sean's argument was joint authorship. They claimed that the screenplay was the result of a collaborative development, potentially making the rights even more complex to share. Saying essentially, I tossed you ideas, you tossed ideas, we kind of pieced this script together Frankenstein style, so there's no way to prove who said what, who created what. It's all just sort of jumbled in the script as a whole from both of our brains. So in 2018, there was a court decision. They actually sided with Miller. They said that Miller was not an employee, he was a freelance writer, therefore he could reclaim the US rights to the first Friday the 13th screenplay. So at the end of it, this left with Sean S. Cunningham with the Friday the 13th title as a trademark and the rights to all the sequels. So we're talking adult Jason Voorhees, the characters that are introduced after the first one, and the elements like the hockey mask, and if they really wanted it, space and stuff like that. But really, it's just a hard line. Friday the 13th 1, stuff that was introduced is kind of untouchable. Anything after that is fair game for Sean. So this is why no movie or series or anything has been made up until this point, because they really, unless they were working together, you couldn't tell the full story of Jason. So now, present day, this is where we stand on these rights issues because it seemingly has all been worked out. The legal battle is pretty much settled, and both sides do appear to be working together. Victor Miller's team is involved with the upcoming A24 produced prequel series Crystal Lake, which is directed by Hannibal's Brian Fuller. This show will not feature adult Jason in a hockey mask, but because they are seemingly working together, I'd be very interested to see if that's how it sort of ends with this kind of new version of Jason. We are also being slowly introduced to what is called Jason Universe, with the 1-3 right in there in the title. There's not much known about it. We know that there's going to be some NECA toys, and that's also why we're talking about it in this video, because it is going to be at this year's Halloween Horror Nights. Now, does the Peacock series tie into the Jason universe? Vice versa? Unanswerable at this point, but I'm sure if they are working together, something will be told to us very soon so we can kind of get through this confusion state. Now, what past HHN houses could this compare to? Other than the 2007 Camp Blood house and the Freddy vs. Jason house, I pulled a couple others that I think we're going to see little tricks taken from. The first being Yeti Campground Kills from HHN34. In this one, we are in the camp aesthetic, we are in the woods, and they do a lot of really cool tricks with mirrors in this to add depth to a soundstage. With this being in a house, there are ways to make it feel like the forest goes forever. So by placing mirrors behind the trees and off the path, it does make it seemingly go on forever, even though we are in a soundstage or a tent. It does seem like we are in a forest. So those are some tricks I think they're going to pull from that house. We're also going to have elements, I think, from Triplets of Terror from HHN33. This, say what you will about the house, there was a lot of brutal, brutal kills. This was the gore house of the year. And now I don't think the Jason Universe house is going to be the goriest of the year. I do think we are going to see some of Jason's best kills, and I mean, he's a slasher with a machete. We're going to see some brutality. And then finally, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from HHN30. This house wasn't just the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre because we pulled characters from the second one. Chop Top was in this house, and I think this Jason Universe house is going to pull something like that as well. We don't definitively know if this is a recap of the franchise or if this is a new Jason altogether, but I can only assume that we're going to at least pull some familiar settings or familiar kills, and I think because Chainsaw kind of did the same thing where it didn't follow a story in particular, it was just sort of Leatherface doing his thing and a best of compilation, I think we see something similar in this Jason house. Now, what to watch? How do you prepare yourself for a franchise that has 12 films, video games, comic books, past HHN houses, and so much more? These are the movies that I would suggest watching because they might play a little role in it, but they are also just fun to watch. I would start with Friday the 13th Part 3. You kind of know the Jason story. Friday the 13th wasn't even Jason. I'm not dismissing it, but Friday the 13th Part 3 is where we get the mask, and this is just... I'm a sucker for stupid 3D effects, so it's a fun watch. Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. The franchise did hit a little lull. On 5, with the whole copycat killer, it wasn't great. You can skip that one. If you're a completionist, watch it all, but Part 6 really picks us back up in a really good spot, and I think overall is one of the most underrated films in this franchise. It's probably in my top 3 if I had to rank them. This one is just for fun. Jason X. Just watch it. As long as more people watch it, maybe we can will into existence an Uber Jason appearance in this house. But this, like I said, is just a 2000s insane concept. We have Jason in space. He gets upgraded by nanobots and fights a cyborg. It's a fun, shut your brain off watch. There's some creative kills. It does give you a little bit of history with Jason. It starts with him sort of in present day, and he becomes cryogenically frozen, and we go into the future. It's a fun little easy watch. Freddy vs. Jason, you can't omit this one from your rewatch. This is 2 classic slashers going at it, and much like other movies in this franchise, we are just playing the hits with Jason, but it does kind of catch you up to speed with things, and it's just a fun watch. If you're a fan of classic slashers, which I'm assuming you are, if you're a fan of Horror Nights, if you're a fan of Jason, you've probably already seen this, but if you haven't, for whatever reason, if you missed this movie, go back and watch it. Obviously, it doesn't hold up to today's standards with some of the dialogue and everything like that, but it is just a fun watch, and it's something I don't think we're ever going to see again. And finally, Friday the 13th, the 2009 remake. At first watch, I really did not like this movie, but over time, it has definitely grown on me. This is sort of a catch you up to speed movie. It's more of a modern retelling. It kind of takes the first 3 movies and mashes them together, and it gives you this sort of new mid-2000s look on this classic slasher. We'll be coming face-to-face with Jason in the fall at Halloween Horror Nights, Orlando, and Hollywood, so hopefully this caught you up to speed a little bit. This franchise, like we said, is huge. 12 movies and so much more, so hopefully we got you up to speed a little bit, but we barely just skimmed the surface of this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're going to have plenty more videos coming your way once more IPs are announced to catch you up to speed on those franchises. You can find us on Instagram at Fear and Beer Pod. We'll see you soon.